Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. We're continuing to look at Psalm 41. This is a psalm that goes along with Psalm 38, 39, and 40, as David is dealing with the after effects, the circumstances that surrounded the rebellion of his son Absalom. His heart is hurting. He's in a difficult situation. And what does he do? He cries out to the Lord for help. And we read here in this psalm, the first thing David asks is the question of how have I treated others? And he begins with the phrase, "Blessed is he that considers the poor." Now David knew that he had considered the poor. He considered Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, after he had taken over the kingdom. He never tried to take Saul out when he had the chance to, when Saul was trying to kill him. David considered those around him with a heart of graciousness and mercy and love. And so he said, because of this, he knew that the Lord would deliver him in the time of trouble. He knew the Lord would preserve him and keep him alive. He knew that the Lord would bless him upon the earth and never deliver him over to the will of his enemies. He knew that the Lord, even in his sickness, his physical sickness, that the Lord would heal him and sustain him and take care of him. And he cried out, "Oh Lord, be merciful to me, heal my soul." So not only physically would God take care of him, God would take care of him spiritually. And David again admitted, "For I have sinned against you." David knew his sin was not only against the people of God and against Uriah and Bathsheba and all those that he had sinned against, but his sin most of all was against God. Read Psalm 51, "Against thee and thee only have I sinned and done this evil in thy sight." He felt the holiness of God and knew that his sin had offended a holy God. Now he was crying out for mercy, and he could, because he knew he had a heart of mercy himself, and he was willing to care for the poor. Now, next thing you see in this passage is the question, how do others treat us? How do others treat us in verses 5 through 9? Because David had to deal with the treachery, the deceit of even his friends, and especially his friend Ahithophel. And so we see, he says in verse 5, "My enemies speak evil of me. When will he die and his name perish?" That's what his friends were saying. his friends that were his enemies at heart, they were the ones that said, "When will he die and his name perish? And if he comes to see me, he speaks lies. And so even when he shows up to help me, he lies." His heart gathers iniquity to himself. When he goes out, he tells it. So not only does he have a heart of sinful iniquity and motives that are wrong, his friends that are now his enemies, that appear and act like they're his friends, he goes out and says, "Oh, look how sick he is. He's not going to last long." And then he says in verse 7, "All who hate me whisper together against me. Against me they devise my hurt. An evil disease," they say, "clings to him. And now that he lies down, he will rise up no more." And then he names him almost in verse 9, "Even my own familiar friend in whom I trusted, who ate my bread, has lifted up his heel against me." Now, interesting, this psalm is a messianic psalm simply because Jesus himself quotes from this in the Gospel of John. "Even my own familiar friend." And remember when Judas came to Jesus and said, "This is the one," and he kissed him, Jesus said, "Friend." Jesus called him friend. Now, Jesus didn't quote "whom I trusted," because the Lord knew not to trust Judas. He knew that he was the one that would betray him. "Who ate my bread." He sat at the Lord's table and ate bread with the Lord Jesus. Judas appeared to care for the poor. He was the one that had the purse and seemed to care for the poor. Why would this lady waste this money on this ointment for Jesus? Oh, goodness sakes. But Judas didn't care for the poor. "Has lifted up his heel against me," David said. And I'm telling you, that's exactly what Judas did to Jesus. Oh, what a wonderful psalm. Remember, reminding us how we have to deal with the treachery of those around us. And when we realize God even allows that to happen for his divine purposes, and he wants us to trust him still. Well, my friend, I trust that you truly will keep your eyes on the Lord in the midst of your trials and know that He will hear your prayer and help you in your need. God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.